Robert Slayton today. How are you doing, Robert?
I'm doing well. How about you, Jeff?
I am doing excellent. Thanks for asking.
Good.
So why don't we get started by just kind of sharing a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Okay. Well, a little bit about myself. I'm married. I have 2 kids, live in Naperville, lived here about almost 19 years, which amazes me. This is the longest period of time I've ever lived in one city in my life. So that's kind of where I am. And when it comes to business, I run an insurance agency in Naperville, as a matter of fact. You would think it would be easy to get to. It's 20 minutes from my house to get up to my office in Naperville to Naperville. I'm a full-service independent insurance agency. My specialty is on the benefit side: health, life, long-term care, disability. When you talk about the health insurance and the Affordable Care Act, pretty much I was in Senator Durbin's office the night before they passed the act, and so I've been watching it ever since then. So when individuals, when companies have questions, do I qualify? Do I have full-time equivalents? What's this stuff going on? What do I need to track? I'm the guy they can talk to.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So what made you get started?
Well, that's a good question. This is business number 7 for me, actually. I've been in it for 13 years. I love it. I don't plan on changing. But right before this, I was working for a little company called Rockwell International. You know, that
Little company?
Yeah, the little company. They sent the space shuttle up. The division I worked for was actually a direct competitor of Lucent at that point in time, now Avaya. And tech boom turned into tech bust. I outsourced my job to India, and I needed to decide what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. So I did a 40-year plan. I actually have a master's degree, and I have a master's of science in education and counseling with a focus in career counseling. And that was actually one of the business I did. I used to do private career counseling, outplacement consulting. And so I took my own medicine. I did a 40-year plan. I said, well, where do I want to end up here in 40 years? Well, I like a business where if I don't work, I get paid. I like getting paid for not working. That's not the reality, but it's nice to think about it. I want a business where if my children choose to join me, they can. If they don't, it is a book value, I can sell it. At this point in time, I have no plans on doing any of that. I plan on being in the business at least another 20 years. And from there, I was converting my COBRA to an individual policy. I peppered the agent with questions, and that's how I started. And I started on the individual health insurance, moved to group insurance. I work with businesses with 5 to 200 employees, and all the ancillary from individual health, disability, long-term care to group disability, group dental, vision, and all the other products. And really help them with strategizing. And this Affordable Care Act, I do a lot of consulting for that because it's confusing. 2,700 pages and 40,000 pages of rules. That's a lot. And so it takes a while to get up to speed and to chunk it down to really what matters to companies and what impacts them.
Sure. So we all know that people do business with those they know and trust, right?
Yes.
So, to me, the best way to get people there without being there is to kind of share a little bit about yourself, what your passion is, what gets you most excited about life in general, that if you could spend 100% of your time on that. I know it's not insurance, even though, you can say all you want. I know it's not insurance, but, if you could spend 100% of your time on that, what would it be?
Well, that's a good question. I love the insurance. You picked a good field when you're going off and talking about this thing enthusiastically, and the person across the desk is going, their eyes are glazing over. Well, that's a good choice. When it comes to where I am and what happens with me, I love personal development, right? I like reading, writing, teaching, and speaking. I used to be a professional speaker in one of my past lives. I used to write for a living in one of my past lives. And to tell the truth, I am writing a book right now, which, it takes about a year to write and produce a book. And so I'm just at the beginning phases. I'm about a month into it. And so every Monday and Friday, I spend 2 hours researching at this point in time. I'm in the research phase. and outlining. Once I do that, then we'll put the interviews together and put the book together and put the marketing plan together.
So what kind
And
of
the
book
book
is
is
that?
really going to be on, it's going to be on equanimity. If you think about working in a business situation, have you ever had a situation where you've been stressed out?
No.
Have you ever thought, yeah,
No,
never. Nobody has. That's why this will just fail phenomenally. But what happens is you get stressed out. So your decisions, your choices and decisions become more constrained because you're stuck with what you think you need to do. And the objective is to get the person in that optimal state, kind of that flow state, where the best options are available to them, both creatively outside of the box and inside of the box, depending on where they are, and really helping to manage all the stress and all the tension that goes on so that people can really perform at their best every single day. And
So what drove you? What kind of drove you to write that book?
Stress. Being in business, watching people make poor decisions, watching myself go through these stressful situations. And also it's been a personal development.
Sure.
I've been working on myself for over 30 years. I meditate. I do, I run barefoot. Isn't that fun?
Oh, really?
And I've been doing it for 6 years, but it's kind of my morning meditation, you could say, too. And these are things that really, anything that I can do to develop myself, but I'm a natural teacher. That's also why insurance works for me, because every time I sit across the desk from either an individual or HR manager or president of a company, I have to understand where they're coming from. I have to educate them on their options so that they can do what's best for them. I don't make the decision, they make the decision, and that's most important. And so folding all those together, this is the best first step to transition the second part of my business, which is taking the things that I've learned through the years, taking the best of the best research out there in performance psychology, positive psychology, and a bunch of other things, and putting them together so that it really impacts people, and helps them. So that's where I am.
That's excellent. And I love talking to people that call themselves coaches and teachers and, people that are just passionate about transferring knowledge. Because those people at some point in time in their life were impacted by others, at least most of the time. And I don't know if you have anybody in particular that's impacted you in such a way that has kind of driven you, down that path. But if you do, can you share?
That's a very good question. I'd almost want to say I have hundreds of people who've impacted me. It could be just, a simple question or a simple comment from a person. Could be, obviously my dad was out there. He was in a job he didn't like, and he changed his life. He changed it. He moved from Philadelphia out to Ohio, changed careers, and was very successful. And he realized at that point in time there's something bigger than himself.
Sure.
His faith really supported him and went through that. So that's a big supporter. I've had some good people throughout the way. When you start talking, life is about invitations, right? You get invitations every single day. The question is, do you recognize them? Number one. And number two, do you act on them? And so I vividly remember one gentleman when I was living in Michigan. He said, well, you know what? Do these things. And so I went up and I did those things. I followed up with him. I said, hey, guess what? I did these things. He says, come into my office. I'm available Thursday at 3 p.m. So I come into his office. He says, do you realize that I tell lots of people to do this and 98% of them never, ever do it?
Exactly.
You're the 2%. Let's work together. Let's see what I can do to help you. That's cool. And it's just the positive support along. And then, of course, the famous people. I love Gandhi, what he stands for, how he really had a vision of where he wanted to go, and he followed himself and where he needed to be to get to where he wanted to be. And that's good. So lots of different positive role models. So we could spend hours talking about all the different nuances of the people who've impacted me.
No doubt. And I don't want to spend any time on myself in these interviews, but I can totally relate to what you're saying.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you mentioned, as far as whether it's your dad or the other people, it sounds like the people that have most influenced you in your life are people that basically made it about other people. They wanted to have an impact of some sort, right? And I mean, to me, that's attractive, and it sounds like it's attractive to you. Anybody that wants to write a book and spend as much time as you do on writing a book, there's obviously a drive to impact more than just yourself.
It's a passion. It really is. My job is to help every single person that I meet be better. Because if you think about it, every single reaction or every single interaction, you can leave a person better, worse, or the same. Very rarely is it the same.
Right.
And so the goal is to always do it and be better. When I sit across the table from somebody or side by side, I try to give them 100% of my attention. Why do I do that? Because nobody else does it, right?
Right.
Listen to them. Understand where they're coming from. Do what's best for them. Don't worry about yourself, because you know what? Success comes. Success flows. It might not come from that person. It might come from somewhere else, but that's okay. The point is, be there, be present, and really take care of that person, take care of that company, take care of this book and the opportunity to really influence and impact people. And, I get out, I speak a lot on the Affordable Care Act. I speak at job clubs about transitions from going from COBRA to individual insurance if they choose. I also talk about, I have a whole process about what do you do after a company says yes, right? There's a very specific process a person needs to follow from the time they say yes, preferably before the company says yes, through the first 90 days, that if you follow, it will really set you up for good career success. So I talk about that too. So lots of fun stuff.
No, and that's great. And that to me is the essence of why I'm doing these interviews, is because, there's a million insurance companies out there.
Yes.
But there's not a million Robert Slaytons, right?
Yeah. Not last I looked.
No. There could be named Robert Slayton.
Yeah.
But my point is, until you get to know the people, if you have people that really want to have an impact, I want to be around those people. I don't know about you. So, you've given a lot of advice so far, and hopefully people are soaking that up. But if you had a chance to sit next to yourself, the day before you were contemplating jumping into your next venture, what are some of the learnings that you've experienced over the years that you would like to pass on to yourself, and maybe somebody else that's listening that, that's thinking about taking a similar step?
That's a good question. Part of it is, there's always fear in your life, right?
Yeah.
And the question is, what do you do with that? Is that debilitating? Is that going to stop you? For example, we outgrew our home. We had a 3-bedroom home, no basement. I was working out of a bedroom at that point in time. I have an office now, and so we sold our house, but we didn't have a house to move into. We put bids on it, but they all fell through. So the question is, what do you do? We could get an apartment. It's around Christmas time, and we were sitting there, my wife and I, staring at the ceiling, going, "What do we do? 6 weeks to get out." And we'd been saving to take a trip, and she said, "Well, instead of doing a 2-week trip over to Europe, let's do a 5-week trip, since we have no housing expenses. And we'll just rip the kids out of school." And the question at that point in time, see, everybody asked the question, should I? That's the wrong question. It's, can you? Can you do it? Will your business implode? Can you do it? And the answer was yes, we could. And within 6 weeks, we put it together. And we spent 5 weeks in Europe. Is best thing, because I'll guarantee you that my kids will remember it the rest of their lives. And I put my server at my assistant's house. I worked a couple hours a day. So when I'm contemplating talking to my younger self, it's not a question of should you. It's a question, can you, could you, and what really will happen if you do it? There are lots of times when, I zigged versus zagging because of fear. Should I do it? Oh, I probably shouldn't do it. That's not it. It's, can you? What's the impact? What can you do to really build on it and get to really where you want to be? Because every single time you make a decision, it needs to get closer to where you really want to be in your life and your passion. This is what I used to teach people in career development and outplacement. It's like, what are you passionate about? Where do you want to end up? From there, every single choice and decision you make needs to get you a little bit closer to that goal. You're not going to go from A to Z. I mean, if you, that's great. I wish I could, right? Yeah. But the answer is, if I can get from A to B, which is a little bit closer, B to C, next time, be a little bit closer, it's good. Decisions are easy when your values and principles are sound. And so figure out that passion, and every time that you have to make a decision, make sure it gets you a little closer to where you want to be. And it's not should you, it's can you.
Excellent. Excellent advice. That's excellent. Yeah, so to me, and I'm totally in line with what you're saying as far as following your passion. And I believe that if you don't, which I'm sure a lot of people fall into that trap when they go into business where they're chasing money instead of, what their real purpose is. Mm-hmm. It's tough to keep going because it's never perfect, right?
No. Yeah, it took me 5 years to get there.
Everybody's, if I could give any advice, it's the roadblocks will be there because those are your development steps, right?
Yeah.
And the question is will your passion, your purpose be there to get you over that hump? Or, if you don't have it, you might take a step back and say, well, I'll go try something else because it's too hard, right?
Well, and that's part of the other part is getting rid of all of your other options. When you're in your own business, right? And it took me, in business, I call it a watershed year, right? It's the year you make enough money, not only to pay your business expenses, but to pay all your personal expenses. When you hit that, it's a pretty cool feeling.
Right.
It took me about 5 years to get there because I'm just a slowpoke, right? If I would have hired on direct to any carrier or any company, they would have fired me. I'm a farmer. I'm not a hunter. Okay. And that's just the way it works. But part of the time is, you evaluate, am I on the right course? Just like you said, Jeff, am I passionate about it? The answer is yes, keep going. And it's dogged determination because you're going to be 3 feet away from that vein of gold, right? We've all heard that story.
All read the book.
Right before you break through, and you just have to do it. Keep on keeping on. So right. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, that's excellent. And hopefully everyone else takes that in stride because it's so important.
Yeah.
So, we've talked a lot about, advice and what you do. We're both a part of the co-opvertising network. And, so here's your chance to kind of reach out and say, how can you help them and how can we help you? So you got the podium, you got the group in front of you. What are some of the ways that we can help?
Well, number one, obviously, what can I do for you? I'll sit down, I listen to you. I'll share your videos if you have them. I'm going to meet you on Friday, right? That'll be fun. And the point is, it's all about a referral base. This is my small box I do, right? I don't do anything outside of this box, relatively speaking. And so anybody outside of this box, if I don't do it, I'm going to give it. I gave, 3 referrals this week to people who don't do what I do. LED lighting people. I hooked up an interior designer with a person who sells pianos. It sounds kind of strange, but you know what? They were both excited about it.
Sure. And
that's pretty darn cool. How can people help me? You know what? Everybody needs insurance. Everybody has questions. So on the individual point of view, you know what? Health insurance, life insurance, long-term care, disability, incredibly important. When it comes to businesses go, well, should I even have this health insurance stuff? If I do, I'm at 48 employees. Well, what's a full-time equivalent? What do I need to track for the IRS? Because you should be tracking stuff right now, today. And if you're not, you're going to be hurting at the end of the year. And I can really help with that. I spend 1 to 2 hours a day just keeping up in my industry because I know this is hard to believe, but the government tends to release regulations that I have to keep up on because I want to protect my clients' backs. I mean, that's really my goal is to make sure that whatever we do falls in line with your goals and your objectives, whether you're an individual or you're a business. And I want to watch your back to make sure that we can do what's best for you. So, you know, when it comes to that, businesses, 5 to 200 employees is great. Individuals, you have a transition change, call me and we'll talk. And, you know, I'll share your videos. I'll be there at the co-opvertising. It's going to take me a while to say that, you know. And, you know, I'll share what I can about you and your passions.
Excellent. So if I wanted to get a hold of you, what's the best way to reach you?
You can, I'm multimodal, right? My office number is 630-779-1144. My website is slaytonins.com, SLAYTONINS, short for insurance.com. So if you can see my last name up there, just add an ins.com. And you can even make an appointment with me through my website. So come on by. Just a minute. One thing I haven't figured out was how to mute my phone before we started.
No worries. This is all about keeping it real. So I really appreciate your time, Robert. It's been excellent.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity of sharing with you, and I look forward to seeing you on Friday and at future events.
Yes, and likewise. And for the rest of you, we'll see you online soon, or we'll see you at the event on Friday. Thanks.
Thanks.